Okay, you're good.
All right. Good morning. I'm going to call to order today's Finance Committee meeting. It's Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. The time is 10:02. I'm Lauren McNally, Fifth Ward City Council person and chairwoman. I'm going to get started with our roll call for everybody here. I'll go down our list. We have Jennifer Ozinger, Rick Deek, Dana Lance, Valencia Morrow, Jimmy Hughes, Jeff Limbian, Anita Davis, Basha Adamzak, Jermaine Kitchen, Julius Oliver, Kyle Mizak, Mike Ray, Nikki Posterly, Samantha Turner, Tito Brown, and Chief Finley. Got everybody? We will just go ahead and get started. We have a couple items on today's agenda. The first here is increasing the finance computer network administrator positions from 1 to 2. No, Kyle, if you wanted to speak to that and explain what your thought is.
Yes, I will start and then I will hand it off to Rick Deek, and then I think Chief Finley will also participate. Currently, right now, the finance department has the computer department as a division within finance. Within that unit, Rick Deek leads that department or that division, and he has oversight for all of computers, telephone, and systems throughout the city. Right now, the unit is separated or set up where there are separate units that support the courts, where Daryl Anderson is in charge of the health department, the courts, and the bailiff department. At the same time, we have Richard Kane and Chris Salinas, who are in charge of the police department. And Rick then has himself and his other two co-workers that work throughout the city for the facilities and through waste and water and environmental sanitation and the water department. The fire department has been handling it in-house, and it's been dealt with and addressed by a firefighter who has a considerable background in the support of computers and the server. However, because of conflicts with the union and with the fact that we're in-house talking about making some serious operation changes at the fire department going forward that we will be addressing with you, it has come to our, or the concern is that we need to gravitate away from the model of having the fire department dealing with it in-house and bringing it back to the finance department and having that umbrella in place where Rick Deek would have control, and we would potentially have a network administrator similar to what we have in the courts, that we have in the police department, in the fire department. So I'm going to hand that off to Rick and let him kind of explain the whole perspective of why we think this is best and what it means and how we would go about accomplishing that.
Okay. Yeah. Rick?
Through the chair. Thanks, Kyle. Actually, Kyle explained it well. I mean, historically, we haven't had an IT person in the fire department to handle the fire department's specific needs. The fire department, they obviously have station 1 and they have several stations throughout the city. So there's significant infrastructure and communications between the departments, as well as their telephone system. They currently have 2 servers. They have a reporting system. There's plenty of IT infrastructure there for a person, equally like the police department, where you have a police admin, we would have a fire admin. And we've run into several instances where, the chief, we had an issue where a firewall went down and we had no one. And we're busy here and we're pulling people to help the chief out, but having someone designated to the fire department would, I think, is critical. So that's all I have.
All right, Chief Finley, did you want to add anything before we move to questions? You're on mute if you are saying something.
He,
Yep, you're good now.
Okay. The reason that I want to do this, Captain Freeze is the one that does, like Rick said, he does our computers, our phones, our tone system that sets off the tones when there's a call comes in. And ever since I've been on the chart, we don't have redundancy. And Timmy Freeze is the only one that does it, but he's also still in active military and things like that. And if something was to ever happen, you know, over and above, you know, the union, the issues I have with the union, if something was to happen to him, this department would come to a screeching halt because nobody else knows how to do what Timmy does. So that's why I'm requesting this.
Rick, why don't you also explain,
Kyle?
Rick, through the chair, would you explain how their infrastructure doesn't mirror up to what we currently have throughout the city and why we need to also be concerned about moving forward and integrating that so that that platform is mirroring up to what we have throughout the city versus them being separated and on a separate standalone?
Yeah, through the chair.
Rick?
Thank you. And that's really specific to their telecommunications at the fire department. Right now, the telephone system between all of the stations is basically homegrown. It's been developed and implemented by the captain and is supported wholly by him. And so with that knowledge, we don't have additional support or redundancy in the event that, you know, the telephones go down. So my goal would be to put someone in place there, evaluate and see how we could either integrate into the city system or find a standalone system that would have some redundancy and some support along with that. As far as the computer infrastructure, we have two servers right now for the fire department. We have one over here in City Hall in the computer center. We have one that's over at Station 1. You know, through the years, as long as I've been here, we've myself and my staff, we've supported the computer infrastructure, and you know, we continue to do that. Now, the support that we typically don't perform here, what the captain does is also PC and VPN support between the stations, which a network admin would facilitate.
How many hours of work do you think Captain Freeze, you know, puts in to this position currently, maybe on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Does anybody know that?
Through the chair, Timmy Freeze, I'm sorry, through the chair. Can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Timmy Freeze, he puts in about almost 10 hours a week, just on our between the tone system, the radio, not the radios, the tone system, the computers, and the telephones. About 10 hours a week. He does a lot. He really does do a lot of work, and we actually pay him. On top of that, we actually pay him on call pay, because it doesn't matter whether Timmy's working or whether he's not working. If something happens to the system, we call him at home. He has actually, remember last year when he actually got deployed and he was across the, you know, on the other side of the world, we would call him. He could remote in and fix problems. But the thing is, you know, how much longer can he, you know, if something was to happen, if he's out on a mission and the system crashed, obviously we can't pull him back from the mission to do what we need, because the military needs him. It's just, it's a great system, and it saved us money all these years. Even when John was here, it saved us money, but you got to have redundancy. One person can't have all this knowledge. If our system crashes and he's not around, we're in trouble.
So if he's putting in 10 hours now, what's going to constitute this full-time position then?
Through the chair.
Rick?
And, he's spending 10 hours now, but I believe even through, life cycle upgrades, he's spending 10 hours to keep it going. But there's other projects that the chief, I'm sure, has technologically that would keep him, there's other projects that through the upgrade that would definitely, take up more time for work. Plus, we could spread him around, here at City Hall to fill in gaps, and throughout the city, throughout the week or the year. But I believe, especially at first, this person will be overwhelmed, just getting acclimated and, performing life cycle upgrades.
Mike?
Thank you. Through the chair. So it sounds like, this is part of an overall plan to have uniformity across the board with IT, with a central person, a central system. So someone could go from police to fire to help, or from the courts, and you're all using the same standards. And I think in audits, and whether it was a performance audit or even our annual financial audits, I think there are some deficiencies we see. They may not be material, but there are some things that we can be doing better in IT. And probably if we're doing it across the board, it's going to be easier to have that standard, I would hope. So I don't know, for an organization our size, with the number of employees and what we're responsible for, I don't know how we compare numbers wise with such a small department. Any idea, Rick?
Yeah, we're definitely slim here, and that's for sure. And I always, I never want to put the IT department in a position where we're reactive. I'd like to be in a position where we're proactive, which I don't think we're quite there. We're basically maintaining. We're sort of right in the middle, and definitely the fire department here gives us the opportunity to have that conformity between all of safety forces, and would allow us to streamline the operations, and like I said, we can move people around. This individual can fill in gaps at the police department, here at City Hall, over the courts. It just gives us that flexibility.
Are the two people that you mentioned in the police department side of IT, are they under you then, Rick? They're not under something in the police department?
Yeah, they're under me, and their daily tasks. They answer to the chief, to the police chief, but they are organizationally under me.
Anita?
Just through the chair. Are both people over at the police department full-time?
Yes. Oh, through the chair.
And so this would be a new hire that you're requesting?
Through the chair.
Yes. Rick.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Why would this not be cheap for us to contract out the work to do all the upgrades versus hiring a brand new body, paying and making them a full-time employee with benefits? Would it be cheaper to contract out the work?
Through the chair.
Rick?
No, I mean, there's several concerns with that. You contract that type of work out. There's security concerns. There's also organizational concerns. The chief doesn't have his IT personnel to carry out IT functions that are specific to the fire department. But I think in the long run, hiring someone, having them, handle those functions would benefit us the best.
Anita?
To the chair. But you're saying that Captain Freeze is only doing about 10 hours worth of work a day. And then you're saying you could use this new hire to go around and do other things. In other words, find work for them. Again, how much work, if Captain Freeze is able to do this in 10 hours, why would we bring someone on for 40 hours? And are they going to be employees? Or we'll be contracting with that person?
Through the chair.
Rick?
He might, and this is my belief, and maybe Chief could chime in, but you know, Freeze is putting in, let's say 10 hours a week, but that's just maintaining that system. There's certainly more than 10 hours a week of work that is available at the fire department to continually upgrade and maintain that system.
If I could, through the chair, Rick is right. Rick is right. And that's what Timmy told me, 10 hours a week, but that's just the maintenance. And there's other things that are well above my pay grade that Timmy does on a constant basis to keep all three of these systems that we have up and working. Because between phones, tones, and the computer system, it's constant. It is literally constant.
Anita?
To the chair.
No,
Hang on.
I believe I have the floor.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Anita.
Okay. I'm going back to, though, even if it's just the maintenance work and more work, is it going to justify a full-time, that's 40 hours worth a week, every single week? And if there's a way to have someone do the work as a contractor, even if we brought this person on as a full-time contractor versus an employee, paying them benefits, why would we bring someone on and say, we're going to find the work? You have to tell me what the work is right now. Please tell me the work now. I'm done.
Through the chair.
Kyle,
Chief,
go ahead, Kyle.
I know, Chief, could you explain how all of the trucks now have handheld devices, and as you go out for any call, how those handheld devices are being used and how data is being tracked and then used to operate your stations and making sure that you're dealing with the responsibilities that you have? Because I know that we have spent a lot of money recently providing you with handheld computers and things like that. What is it what is those being used for every day?
Okay, on every, through the chair, on every one of our fire trucks, we have iPads, and those iPads, when dispatch dispatches us, that information the dispatch has gets pushed to our iPads. Now, those iPads in the truck, gives us a lot of things. They can show us who's responding, how many are responding, where the convergence is, where the call is, all the information about pertaining to the call. And Timmy keeps all of that. And because these iPads are a little bit older, and now we have a new CAD system, they're not talking to each other. So, and this is just literally the tip of the iceberg. Timmy has been working now for weeks because since 911 got a new CAD system, the new CAD system we got, plus the iPads we got, they're not talking to each other. So Timmy is spending an exorbitant amount of time on phone with Apple, the CAD system people, and somebody else in IT to try to get these iPads up and running. And that's just one, out of everything that he does, that is literally just one. And it literally can, I understand what Councilwoman Davis is saying, does it have to be a full-time position? And for everything that Timmy does, yes, it has to be a full-time position. There is a whole lot of work here. And when I say the 10 hours, I had asked Timmy a couple months ago, how many hours does he put in, here at the fire department, just doing IT. And just like Rick said, he said, maintenance wise, maybe 10 hours a week. However, with everything else, and we're not just talking about the computers, we're talking about the computers, the phones. We just purchased, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars worth of batteries that I don't understand the system, but batteries for all the telephones that we have in all the fire stations. the main fire station, if it goes down, then everything goes down. And it's just, he is constantly doing stuff along with, you know, his regular duties as a captain on the ladder downtown.
Mayor.
Yeah, through the chair, I think this is just another piece that we're trying to make sure that we're consistent across all departments. And this is one of those areas that we've had a gap, and we've just been fortunate to have a staff member who has the skills to take it over. But I think right now you guys are realizing technology, we want to raise our level of expectation in our technology throughout City Hall. Here's why we need to get better and improve. And this is just one of the positions that we want to propose and put in the 2021 budget so that council has a sense of looking at it and seeing that it makes sense. I think if Rick went through the job description and did a day-to-day assessment, and I think, you know, for Timmy to say he does 10 hours, that's what he probably documents. But think about him being overseas in, you know, for his military experience, and we have to call him for that. What happens if he's going to be going 2 years? So I think it's just for us to really satisfy what we want to do as a whole across all the IT. Every other department has someone they can look to, and here's one of the first who's the second largest department, and they don't have an IT. So that was our look at this. That we just thought it was a good opportunity right now and a need, and we wanted to propose this to council for consideration.
Thank you. Dana.
Good morning. I just wanted to speak specifically to Councilwoman Davis's question about contractors. This is work that our charter would require an employee because it would be a civil service position. We already perform this work by civil service employees. It's also union work. So we would be prohibited from hiring a contractor to do day-to-day work in the city for a function we already do. There's no specialized outside the scope of what our IT department can do. So that is why it's required that we hire an employee. As it relates to the 10 hours a week that Mr. Freeze or Captain Freeze is performing, the mayor is right in that we are trying to expand the IT department to raise that level. But specifically as it relates to the fire department, this came to the law department because of some training issues in the departments that the chief was doing online training. And we have connectivity problems at those other stations. So we have officers or employees that can't do that training there. And that is what Kyle was referring to when he said conflict. It's not a conflict so much that there's an argument with the fire department. It's a conflict in that, or it's an issue that we're trying to address because now they have to come downtown to do the training effectively to get online. So we don't have a fully functional system there. And that's why when it came to the law department, we proposed that we create that additional position. What we know now in the police department is we have 2 people, and that's not quite enough. Our report system is not online. The officers don't have the ability to go back and look at old reports except going through the actual IT person because there's so much work that needs done there that an additional person is absolutely necessary to help out in the police department, but not on a full-time basis, just to get through some of these upgrades. So that person that worked in fire could also do that. We're trying to look at maintaining our public record system and all of those type of things through IT. So I just wanted to add those couple points so that council can really get a full picture of like the issues we face when these issues come up because they become labor management discussions. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Just a quick note. I do see everybody's hands that keep going up. So there's lots of questions here and I'm trying to get to everybody in a timely manner. So please have patience that you will get called on. Samantha.
Thank you. My question is, with Tim, would he still be performing the tasks that he is performing, or will you transition him out of that role?
It's through the chair. Through the chair. No, if you guys allow me to get this position, then Timmy will just be, function as what he's getting paid for, as to be the captain on on the ladder downtown.
Samantha, do you have a follow-up?
I do. Does that not create the situation we're in now where we'll only have the one person doing the job, or you'll still utilize him as a backup?
Through the chair, I would like to not use Timmy at all, only because if we got somebody full-time working on it, then that's going to be, that's going to be their job. Technically speaking, Timmy's job is to be a captain on the ladder downtown, not IT. It's just that this is the way it's been. This is just the way it's been for so long.
Thank you. One more question.
Sorry. Samantha, do you have another follow-up?
Yes. So again, you hire somebody January 1, March 8th, this person comes down with, the novel coronavirus. Then we call Timmy, or is our IT department, by that point, our IT department be set up to handle any problems in the fire department? Because if we hire somebody full-time and pull Timmy completely, then we're back in the same position where there's no redundancy.
Maybe Rick can answer that.
Hey, Rick, yes.
Yeah, through the chair. Well, with hiring someone for the fire department, it does create that redundancy, because this is, this would be my staff member that I work with that, I understand all parts of the fire department, and we're able to, cross-train, we're able to fill in the gaps, effectively by having that dedicated person to the fire department.
Great. And just one more direct follow-up, Rick, with that. Thank you. Through the chair, could you please provide us with an organizational chart as to how everyone is set up in the IT department across the city and how they report? I think being able to see that clear map of bodies and where they're reporting and how they're moving would be a lot easier for us, or at least for myself. Thank you.
Dana?
I just wanted to mention in response to the question about whether Tim would continue to perform these duties, that the work that he's performing is beyond the scope of his job description. So these are duties that we can't actually require him to do. So at any point in time, he could decide not to do those. There's also a cost associated with him doing those that we wouldn't incur in overtime or AT if we had then a person in the IT department that's assigned to do that. And again, to Rick's point, the redundancy would be in that the IT department would be able to fill in those gaps. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita?
To the chair, when Captain Freeze is doing this work as the IT person, is he still being paid as a firefighter, as a member of the fire department, or is he being paid as an IT person?
Kyle?
Through the chair.
Oh, Chief was gonna
Through the
answer.
chair, through the chair, he's actually being paid as both, because if he's like today, he's on duty. If something was to happen with the system, Timmy would fix it. Well, he's already on duty, getting paid as a captain. So he would just whatever, however much AT time it took him to do it, that's what Timmy would put down, and we would give him AT. And if you remember, I believe it was last year or the year before last when he got activated and had to go overseas, and we passed that special legislation because Timmy had well exceeded the amount of AT time that was needed. And so we did that special legislation so that he would continue to get a paycheck, burning the AT time that he had, since he was, grossly over the AT. But we only, the max of AT time right now under the current contract is only 200 hours, but Timmy does so much, it's hard not, you can't pay him in overtime, and he would actually prefer the AT time. And when I took over as fire chief, Timmy was already probably at 600 or 700, maybe 800 hours of AT time, because he does that much.
Dana?
He's paid at the rate of a captain, which is significantly higher than the even the top rate of this position that we're proposing.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I got everybody's hands as of right now. I had a couple questions. So basically, there's a lot of work being left on the table because he can't really get to it. He's just maintaining the system right now. So if we hire someone, we'll be able to tackle some of those other things that have been sitting there for a long time, or that just we haven't gotten to, or that maybe we want to do. So I was wondering if maybe, Rick, you could share any of those things that are, you know, probably dire to the system, or plans that, you know, you have for the next year or so that need to be implemented in the fire department?
Yep, that's through the chair. The telephone system in the fire department needs a hard look at. That was implemented several years ago, is antiquated. We had an issue with the phone system earlier this year, and finding some equipment to upgrade was problematic. So we definitely need to look at that and reorganize the telephone system at the fire department first thing. And it's been a while since the chief has had PC upgrades as well. So, you know, those, you know, right off the bat, we need to look at and upgrade. The other issue we run into with the fire department is if Freeze isn't available, the chief just has no one, and you know, many times, you know, if we're not available, we can't help him, you know, in a timely manner. So, you know, having that person there at the fire station will definitely take care of those immediate issues as well.
Thank you. Anita?
I'm going to go back to sort of what Samantha was saying. But if we hire this person goes down, then it would default to the folks already in your division to be the backup. Correct, Rick?
Correct.
And the chief would then have to wait for whenever you're free to come help him.
Yep.
I don't have a problem. I believe that this department, I know that the fire department needs an IT person or someone in doing that kind of service. But I do question the number of hours and bring them in as a brand new hire. And when I hear about the phone system, this person would install the phone system or what? Rick?
Through the chair. I'm not, again, that phone system was a homegrown system implemented by Freeze. It's something that I personally have to get under the hood, take a look and evaluate what the best direction is for their telecommunications, whether it be integrate them into the current City Hall phone system. You know, I believe that would be the direction that, you know, we would definitely look at. We'd probably go in or look at another system, but that's something that we definitely need to evaluate.
Mike?
But what I'm hearing through the chair, what I'm hearing is the ultimate goal would be the backup would be someone else from your team. So I think, you know, it was request an organizational chart. I think it'd be easier if we could see what that whole team looks like, showing that and saying, hey, if we're all running on the same phone system, we're all running on the same systems and platforms, you know, any of the Ricks could come over from City Hall and do that. We're not talking about only one person. We're talking about redundancy because everyone's operating on the same platform. Correct?
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yes. No, correct. And you know, it's the same example of in the over at the courts. We have Daryl over there, and at any time, myself, Rick or Alan can assist with him. at any given time in that system. It's closely integrated to the city hall system. So we're all, familiar with how we could visualize that network and how to troubleshoot any issues that come up.
Rick, I would assume that this job requires some serious qualifications and things of that nature that you'll be looking for or be requiring of your hire.
Definitely, education or equal experience in IT and networking and troubleshooting, preferably some telecommunications background, but definitely strong understanding of network and IT infrastructure for sure.
Anita?
How many people work do you have over there at the courts for the computer systems?
Rick?
Thank you. We have one person over at the courthouse. This individual takes care of the courts, the health department. We have prosecutors over there. He is assigned to that building, and then me and my staff here, Rick and Alan, we assist him with that if there are any issues that he can't assist at the time. So we have one.
Anita?
Follow up, when you do the flow chart that's Councilwoman Turner requested, I'd also like to know where these folks are going to be stationed. Are they if this is done, would this person be housed at the city hall, at the #1 station? Where would they actually be housed? I kind of like to know that too. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Rick?
I think this person would be best effective at Station 1. This person would be available for the chief to advise him technically, to be there for any issues. Much like in the police department, we have Rick Kane over at the police department. We have Daryl Anderson over at the courts. This person would be best suited at Station 1, I believe.
Kyle?
Through the chair, thank you. I just want to remind all of you that when we discussed 2 years ago about integrating Daryl into Rick's unit, it was a requirement that both judges and Sarah Brown Clark said that if they were going to relinquish that position, that we had to guarantee that that position was going to be actually seated in that facility, that there was no way that they were going to allow us to bring that position over to finance here and have it at City Hall, that they mandated that if they were going to come on board, that that person had to be stationed in that operation just because of the day-to-day need to make sure that if they ran into any issues, it could be addressed by somebody who had expertise and was actually located at that facility. Similar to what the chief is looking for in the fire department, that the police department currently already has, which then City Hall has with regards to Rick and his employees or his team here at City Hall.
I know you're going to provide us with this, so I don't want to harp on it, but just a quick recap. So you have one person dedicated to the courts and health department, one dedicated to the police department. This is a request. No, you have two dedicated to the police department.
Yes.
You have one. This is a request for one for the fire department dedicated. And then you have a team of 3 downtown that handle all the other departments.
Correct. Yeah, we have the core team downtown at City Hall, and we handle wastewater, water department, West Avenue. So all of the other city buildings and employees.
And so your core team also acts as the backup to your guys in police and courts, and then this guy and this person in, fire, if you hire him.
And through the chair, yeah. We're here, basically, the core network is here at City Hall. All the communication comes in here. This is where we have the computer center. This is where we have the servers. So much of that infrastructure is shared amongst, all of the departments, whether it be fire and the courts. All of the information comes through here at City Hall. So typically when there's a communication issue for a few of those buildings, first place we look is here. So yes, that's sort of what we handle here on the day-to-day.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or any other requests for additional information besides the org chart? Anita?
Through the chair, I'm just kind of curious. At the to Rick, the police department has 2 full-time IT people. Is that correct?
Through the chair?
But the fire
That's
department
correct.
would only have 1. So why the difference? I'm just curious, is it that many more pieces of equipment? Because you're dealing with, I don't know how many fire stations. Are we going to end up needing yet another person for the fire department?
Through the chair?
Go ahead, Rick.
I don't believe so. With the police department, you have to consider each cruiser that's out there has a computer, has a radio. So, the police department, they support that 24-hour operations of the cruisers in every cruiser throughout the city. And plus the police department, they have many other information systems and reporting systems in comparison to the fire department, as well as 911. Certain portions of 911, not necessarily the 911 phone system, but the computer infrastructure of 911. So the police department does have more components than the fire station, even though there are many locations, at the fire department. But I think, at least now, 2 is really understaffed for what they have over at the police department. I got to be honest, but they make do. They're maintaining and they're able to accomplish and maintain what they have at the police department.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding. Earlier, it was said that I believe Captain Freeze is his name. He's getting paid captain wages, and he has an assignment, and he comes to work. And during that time, he's getting his full salary for the captains. At the same time, he's getting this additional salaries for doing the IT stuff or whatever, however this is rolling in. Is that correct? I mean, it's not overtime. It's not doing his outside time. This additional monies, this AT or whatever, however he was getting paid, that's during the same period of time that he's also earning his captain wages. Is that correct? And I have a follow-up if it is.
Chief Finley or Kyle can answer that, maybe. Kyle, you're muted.
Sorry about that, to the chair. Chief Finley would have to actually answer that based on how they are inserting those comp or AT hours into his timesheet. I would believe that correctly, if he was working his normal 24-hour shift and he was at the station, he should not be getting AT time during that actual work time if he's doing some assistance while he's at the station. But if he's coming in, not when he's scheduled on one day off too, he's coming in on one of those days that he's off, yes, he would then be earning comp time at his hourly rate as captain for AT. And that's how they should be, in essence, submitting it to finance. And we should be tracking and keeping that historical bank of AT time on his behalf.
Chief, is that what's happening? Go ahead, Chief.
Through the chair, that's absolutely right. Like the days Timmy's working, so anything that he would do today, he just does. But tomorrow or for the next 48 hours that he's off, if we need something, if he has to come in, remote in, anything else that he does, and he doesn't do it every week, but like once a month, he'll submit an AT form, and on the back it'll have every day and the time he spent doing everything, and then we put that into the computer for his AT time. But he does so much as it stands right now. 200. In this current contract, we only allow the max of 200 hours. But Timmy does so much that he far exceeds that. Every year he far exceeds that 200 hours.
Jimmy, you said you had a follow up.
Yeah, earlier he said he was getting for both, and he described him doing his duties on the truck back and forth. So long as, am I clear that he is, while I believe he said 20 hours, he is not receiving AT. He has not received any AT while he was also receiving his regular 20-hour pay, if that's what he gets.
Through the chair. Through the chair. I'm sorry if I made it sound like that, but no. While Timmy's on duty, whatever we need him to do or whatever needs done, Timmy will do. But the 2 days that he's off, then yes, he gets AT time. I'm sorry if I misspoke.
I have no follow-up.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else have any questions on this piece or need anything else before we move on? Okay, I don't see anything. So I'm going to, oh yes, Jeff?
Yes, through the chair, Lauren, this is Jeff Limbian. I just wanted to add one component that I don't know that we've made clear enough for the committee. The current gentleman helping us in the fire department is kind of a homegrown specialist, as I understand it, rather than someone with expertise like Rick Deek. And when you run into personnel problems, as we have recently, the fire department is kind of being held hostage by somebody who may or may not want to help at any given moment. And so it provides for a real lack of security, and I would even say danger to the whole fire department to have someone who could be kind of a wild card if pushed the wrong way. I just think it would be healthy to have someone who was strictly an IT person who really doesn't have any motivations union-wise or firefighter-wise or anything other than making sure that IT is always working properly. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Anita.
To the chair. I understand what Attorney Limbian has talked about because Councilman Hughes and I, while we were still at the police department, we had our IT person who came from within the ranks, and it created a problem. But I do need to get clarification one more time from, I believe, from Dana, that we have to do this as a hire and that we cannot do this as a contract. Is that correct, Dana?
Dana.
Through the chair, yes, Councilwoman Davis, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair?
Yes, Anita.
Yes. I would like to just give my input, which is that while I would prefer to have it as a contract, it really is a need for the fire department to have an independent person as a hire or contract that we do it. But the police department was once held hostage because of the computer system. And we don't want to see that happen again. Jimmy and I, we both experienced what it was like when from within it was locked down or locked out. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Samantha.
Thank you, through the chair. I just wanted to say, I'm assuming that a lot of this came to light, of course, due to COVID and with Captain Freeze being ill early on this year. And how I'm understanding this is that he has done a good job in all of the work that he's been doing and been fairly consistent with the work that he's been doing in the fire department. But right now it is time for us to transition to a new era where we are much more organized and expertise is where it needs to be. So if Rick, if you could provide us with that organizational chart that shows us where they're working and how things will be covered in a more effective manner going forward, I would greatly appreciate that. And thank you, Chief, for recognizing that this change needs to happen and happen now.
Rick, do you have the job description and salaries set for this already?
Through the chair, yes. Actually, I need to change the job description. Looking over the job description of the position that we're proposing to create 2 positions. The job descriptions needs updating. So I do have the current job description that I could send over. But,
okay, could you share the updated one, you know, before, once you get it updated? And what's the salary associated with it that you have down for it? Kyle, maybe, or Kyle has his hand up. Do you want him to answer, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay, Kyle, unmute yourself.
Through the chair, I apologize. The position has 3 steps. The ceiling on that position right now in calendar 2020, because it'll have a 1% raise effective January 1 of 2021. But the ceiling on that right now is $60,118. And Rick could tell me what's the first step starting at right now that will then change by 1%?
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Rick.
I have 46,457 as the entry step, and to cap out at 55,409.
Okay, and I'm assuming that's in line with your the other people in those positions.
Yes.
Through the chair, that
Yes.
is correct.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, anything else from anyone? I don't see anything from anyone at this time, so I'm going to move on. Rick, thank you very much for participating. The second item we have under new business here is the purchasing agent job description and centralized purchasing for, I think this is going under the finance department, and they're asking for this position. Kyle, do you want to, or did the mayor want to talk about the concept behind this?
I think through the chair, the mayor probably would be the one to best start it.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mayor.
Chair, I wanted to take this opportunity to propose creating a central purchasing agent for the city to move to central purchasing. We've identified this some years ago and during the PFM study. That was some time ago for a more, we want to focus on becoming more efficient and more productive, focus on savings and creating a greater buying power. One of the things I've learned over my time as mayor that we buy a lot, but the problem is we buy from various vendors. And I think we have a lot more buying power if we make it centralized. I know that over at the county, they have a central purchasing department, and they're a lot larger than we are. But I think we're missing that if we're buying tires, is my analogy, if we're buying tires and we buy tires a lot, but if there's 5 departments that are buying 5 different vendors, I think we lose our buying power when we're buying from 5 different vendors. If we're putting out for here's what our tires are, here's where we're going to buy from our tires, our vendor for the year, it gives us greater buying power because we're buying in bulk as a city. One of the things I want to make sure that we also do is that we're possibly buying local when we can. I like to make sure that our local vendors are, if not in the city and not in the county, but in the region, that we're purchasing that. And also, I want to make sure that we're including minority business for our procurement process. So I think a central purchasing agent is definitely an individual that can monitor this. And this is one of those things that I've talked to department heads about, that I want us to become consistent. And I think we're inconsistent now. And this is why I'm asking council to consider this in our 2021 budget. I think it's a great opportunity in the finance department, now that we've had some retirements and some attrition, that we can bring this individual on and really get a handle on our spending, as well as help us save and reduce on the cost, because we got a greater buying power in the city. So those are some of the things I want to open up. Kyle, you want to add to that as what we see and what we believe we can do with the central purchasing?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through the chair.
Kyle?
As the mayor expressed, what we would like to do, and again, it's going to, one, depend upon the kind of response we get from applicants, because if we can find somebody that maybe is coming from one of the large manufacturing industries, or somebody who's done this already for a local government, because we need to make sure that when we go out and look for this potential candidate, that they come to the city with having safety force procurement background, some enterprise fund background. You think about water and wastewater. We know that most purchasing agents are going to have the skill set to go out and acquire paper, computer equipment. We're looking for somebody that is going to be able to do this centralized for all of the city, where what would happen as part of the process now with purchase orders, we internally, the software requires approval by different levels. We would actually integrate this role where this person would ultimately be working with each of those departments, going out there and setting up contracts, bringing those contracts through council when they are in excess of certain levels, and then through board of control, where we would then be able to identify vendors providing us with goods at the best cost, using them to compete against one another. But it would also be part of the processing chain for approval of purchase orders, that those approvals will not even make it to my level until it goes through this person's level, where they have, one, verified and been able to substantiate that what we are acquiring is something that they have gone out and researched and verified that we're getting at the best price, and it's meeting the guidelines that the administration and council wants to establish with regards to it being potentially purchased from a vendor in the city, from a minority-owned vendor, or from a vendor that is on state contract, and we are already currently getting the best price. So as the mayor pointed out earlier, the study done years ago identified that we could save quite a sum if we could bring that responsibility in-house. The savings will materialize if we're able to actually find somebody with this expertise in this skill set. That's going to be our biggest challenge, and that's why we wanted to share with you the job description. But it's going to come down to, when we go out there and actually post this position out there in the newspaper and on websites, that the candidate pool is probably going to come from some areas where that person may have to relocate to the area, because, again, we want somebody that's going to come from a government background, potentially, that is a large institution, not a small institution, because, again, we're looking for them to take over this role of doing it for all of the city, not just for like City Hall, but for all of the major departments.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. Do we have questions from anybody? Anita?
To the chair, Kyle, the PFM study you're referring to, you're talking about the one from 2012?
Through the chair, that is correct.
So why wasn't it implemented sometimes before now, if it's that great?
Through the chair, it's not that it's that great. What you have to take a step back and appreciate is, we have purchasing being done in all of our departments. To actually make this change, it requires, one, the administration wanting to go down that path, two, the administration wanting to consolidate that role and responsibility in one department and having to address the difficulties that it's going to require for us to put this in place. We believe that the time is right, especially given what we've learned from COVID-19, that, listen, we're accomplishing a lot with a whole lot of less people being in the office. And we believe because, one, right now there is some savings potentially in the finance department because of the people retiring. And so we would be adding this responsibility without incurring additional costs and doing it probably at the best time when we believe that we've got other departments that are going to fall in line, again, with the mayor, because it's going to take a strong hand to actually get this done and done correctly. You're going to have pushback by some of these department heads because they've been doing this internally through their own departments for decades. And now we're talking about making inroads and change. So the mayor wants to do this. We've been discussing it. We've sharing with you a job description. We would like to get you on board, and it's going to require some difficult steps, but we believe this is the best time, and that's why we're pushing it on the agenda, and we want your support and we want your backing.
Anita.
So what was the dollar figure that was referenced in the PFM study of 2012? What was the savings?
Through the chair, the savings is broken down in a number of components. It's broken down by looking at enterprise funds, if you integrate that responsibility for the, for those divisions, and then it's looked at the safety forces. So if you combine those two and you start to push those people that are doing those roles back into some of those responsibilities that they would normally have under their job description, a perfect example is the fiscal officer for the police department. If we remove some of those responsibilities from him, that fiscal officer now will have less responsibility in with regards to purchasing, and then that will free him up to do more work within the police department. The same thing will probably happen with regards to some of the smaller departments within City Hall, because you have better efficiencies. So to quantify it, it's going to be sizable, but the real savings will come if we can bring somebody on board that has the background to be doing this for the water department and for the wastewater department. Those are going to be the difficulties that we're going to be challenged with. We're not sure we're going to find somebody that's going to have that background, but that's what we're going to actually go out and search for. And if we're successful, then that process will be integrated. If not, we may have to continue where water and wastewater make their own purchases just because of the unique quality of what they're buying out there in the open market.
Through the chair.
Mayor.
If I could add to that, Councilwoman Davis, that we want to make sure that we focus on that as much as we can. We've learned a lot from various departments in their purchasing practice. Some are very, direct about what they purchase. They may purchase the bare bones, but we want to get to the point of if we're buying from one department or the other, that we have a vendor that we can use that will help and satisfy other departments. So we're looking at this across all departments and across all accounts, enterprise, general fund. So the skill set, the person we need, and as Kyle said, it's not going to be easy because it's always, well, we've always done it that way, and that's not the case. What I want to stop us from using that term. I want us to start saying, well, we're going to try something different. This is going to be a bold initiative for the city. This is going to take some walking down a tight line, and it's going to get a time for people to get used to it. That's why we want to come to council and get council to consider this and think about it, and then look at what this may help us in the long term. This is a long term. It's going to have a long term and lasting effect on the city of Youngstown.
Samantha.
Thank you. Through the chair, could you share with us the software that we are using and what are the associated startup costs to begin this procedure?
Through the chair. Right now, software that we use is our financial software with regards to approving purchase orders, meaning we have a bank of vendors that are all within the system. And based on those vendors, we create purchase orders where when a item or a service is required, and the approval process internally goes through that software. What we're talking about is the threshold of approval starts at the entry level where the department is putting that request into the software, and then the software is verifying that there is a budget. That software then moves that request to the department head, who then reviews it and then gives the approval. That approval then gets separated and either goes to computer, goes to finance, and is then reviewed for one, is it meeting the requirements of Board of Control and Council? And are the funds that have been approved by Council in the budget, are they enough to meet the request of that purchase order? What we're talking about is inserting somebody at the level between the department and the purchaser, the department person who's actually entering that purchase order, where that role of the finance department for that purchasing agent, he will be reviewing and verifying before that process even gets to the department head that that purchase of what they're acquiring is coming from a vendor that he has solicited and verified and received pricing, and that pricing is what's best for the city with regards to acquiring whatever that good or that services is. So that's what I meant by the process changing, where we would actually be creating a new level within the actual procurement process, where this person would have the role of verifying and then approving. And if it's not being approved, it would stop. And then that vendor would have to then be changed in that purchase order because that vendor was not approved by the purchasing agent. So what we're talking about is almost policing and being responsible for going out and soliciting pricing, verifying that we're getting the best price, and then making sure that the departments are acquiring it from the vendor that was chosen by the purchasing agent to acquire those goods and services.
So how is the purchasing agent then, where's the oversight on that person? Or are we just giving that person sole discretion? Kyle?
To the chair. Well, the oversight is still going to be the finance department. And again, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have contracts, because we're talking about not, remember, we want to actually have the vendor provide us annually, and it's not going to be every January, it's going to be contractually when those agreements expire, but giving us pricing that we then are agreeing to, that if we order any of these goods or services, that's what our pricing is going to be for the next 12 months or 6 months, however that is negotiated. So all of that is going to be internally shared, approved by Board of Control. And if we're talking about goods and services are greater than that, we're going to have to come to council, and council's going to have to be verifying and seeing what we're talking about entering into agreements. The law department will also have a role, because we're going to have them reviewing how we're going to enter into some of these arrangements, because some of these arrangements are going to be unique. It's easier when we're talking about pens and pencils, but when we're talking about some services and making sure that those services are going to get repeated on a monthly basis. One of them is with the water department. They go out and they have our envelope stuff to mail all of our water bills. Well, we're going to verify that service and that vendor is offering it at the best price. It's going to be the responsibility of the purchasing agent to go out and solicit bids from other vendors in the area who may want to challenge for that service, but do it at a more competitive price. That's what the responsibility of that purchasing agent is going to be. But it's going to require the finance department and the law department working together, also working together with those department heads, because those department heads are buying from select vendors that some of us and some departments never purchase goods and services from. So it's going to require the finance department understanding how all of the departments go about their business of acquiring the goods that they need to operate.
And we currently have we have purchasing rules. That's not the right word, but they're not ordinances by which we purchase things, right? There's like a handbook or something, right, Kyle? What is it that you guys work from now? that has sort of your rules in there for purchasing. You're muted.
Through the chair, we worked through an old purchasing policy that was,
Policy, I couldn't think of that word. Thank you.
I think it was put in place in the 80s, and we have not moved off of that. We need to, in essence, and we can, the state, not the state auditors, our more recent auditors that just worked with us, this was, again, one of their recommendations. We are able to go out and solicit through them some other communities' purchasing procedures, and it would probably make sense for us to get those from other communities and come up with a best practice and then bring it to you and get you as a body to actually approve it, maybe changing some thresholds also that would make it more efficient for the city to operate. But again, it would require your buy-in, but it would make a ton of sense to start from scratch and develop a new procedure so that both council, the administration, and the department heads understand going forward what the steps are and that they're going to be required to follow them, because this is what we have, in essence, codified through your action of approving an ordinance stipulating that these are our procedures.
And does it make sense to have that in place at the same time as if we go forward with this new position, or does it make sense to have the person who would theoretically be in this position weigh in on creating the new policies?
Through the chair, like the mayor said earlier, this is a process. We're just starting to educate you. We ourselves have only really discussed it with the mayor, the chief of staff, myself, the law director. So we're in the infancy of putting this together. We just wanted to at least give you a heads up that as we start working on the budget, that this is a path that we would like to get you on board, and that we're going to start working on developing this, and we'll share that with you, and potentially, I don't know what the best practice is yet, if it means finding somebody. I don't think we want to hire somebody if we don't have a procedure already in place. I think we want to establish the procedure, but we can start sharing with you some of our drafts the law department will put together based on the best practices that we can maybe find from someone, say like an Akron or a Canton. It needs to be a community that has enterprise funds, not just your basic operations of safety forces in a city hall, because it's going to be very integrated.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking too. So thank you for just verifying that we should come up with a policy, an updated policy before putting somebody in this position. So if that's the case, do you have a timeline for either this position and or that new policy?
Through the chair, internally, mayor has tasked me with going out and contacting some of these large communities and asking if they would share with us their purchasing policies so that we can sit down internally and start reviewing them. So that's going to be the first step. Then putting together a draft and sharing, and probably have another committee meeting with you and sharing that so that you get, we get your buy-in, we get feedback from you. But that's going to be, I would believe, something that we would like to try to accomplish within the first quarter, of at least getting a policy to you that you approve before March is out, so that going forward, we change how we start internally purchasing goods and services, because even if we don't have that person, if a new policy is passed, we have to abide by that policy. So the policy that we pass is going to be something that will be executed first, and then most likely finding that person to fill that role is going to come second. But I think that would probably make most sense, and I think that's what the administration and the mayor has in mind.
Through the chair.
Nikki.
Thank you. I am familiar with central purchasing, as is the mayor, from our time working with the county. I worked very close with our central purchasing with the county, and spoken with the county auditor as well as the deputy auditor, who shared their purchasing contract with us, as well as their manual. So we do have some type of basis to start with. Having a central purchasing director not only gives us a sense of buying power, but it also helps us with inventory control and tracking. Right now, as the mayor stated, various departments can buy, product based on their department's threshold, but we really don't know how to inventory. We don't have a mechanism in place to inventory it, to keep a true track of depreciation schedules. Furniture, we're shifting furniture from department to department, and even in some cases throwing it out. Kyle doesn't necessarily always have a mechanism to track what is being thrown out, and what the lifespan is, the life cycle. And we can now, if we have a central purchasing agent, when a department requests chairs or tables or cubicles or whatever that is, we can look back on a central purchasing spreadsheet, see when that was purchased, check out the true depreciation, have some type of variables in place with regard to costs, a mechanism for maybe even having I know we used to have like not an audit, but like what's the term I'm looking for? Like a sale, like an auditor sale of property, where we can even generate a small revenue from some of those furnitures and different things like that, because we have a true tracking of what we have and where it's going and what all the departments are spending it on. Right now, we have our own thresholds, and if I can buy small things up to $2,500 without going through border control and kind of superseding, not intentionally, the process, we can have tons of merchandise that we don't even need, that we're sitting on, and there's no true inventory of what we actually have. This way, you can even get annual reports on what departments are spending, exactly what items they have. We can better monitor it and just be more fiscally responsible stewards of the community's money. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Nikki, you mentioned that you worked with the auditor and the deputy auditor at the county level. Do they have a separate purchasing person, or do those two people handle it? Oh, sorry, you're muted still.
I'm sorry, through the chair. Yes, they actually have a separate purchasing department that handles all of the kind of, it funnels through their system, just as Kyle was explaining. So in order to purchase the larger purchases, we have to get approval through central purchasing.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions here or additional information needed? So what I'm hearing is we should really be on the lookout for that purchasing policy coming next. I like that Q1 timeline. And we'll just sort of move forward from there. Is that how the administration wants us to proceed?
Through the chair.
Mayor?
That is a fair assessment of what we're looking for. We wanted to introduce it to council, and like we said, we'll get some best practice and try to look at what that looks like for us. I just know that I've talked briefly with the purchasing officer at the county, and just got a good sense of he would be willing to give us some insight of how they're doing it over at the county. And I just use that because they're right across the street from us and they're right here in the county for it. So we'll focus on that as well, and maybe have some information for this body at a later date as well.
Okay. And the job description that you guys shared with us in preparation for this meeting, that is what you're looking for, or do you anticipate it being adjusted as you do your research?
Through the chair, that's what we're looking for right now, and we may find out in our, we may, be undershooting or overshooting it, but we believe that what we found so far, that's a good start for what we need in the city of Youngstown. So it's a process, and we may find ourselves that we're at the right point, or we may have to make some adjustments as we go because it's something new for the city. So we want to make sure council's open and prepared for walking us down the path together on this.
Okay. Thank
Chair?
you. Anita?
Yeah, teacher, I had a question about the qualifications. 2 years previous working experience, that's gonna be absolutely a part of the job description, correct?
Kyle? Mayor?
Through the chair, yes. The person that, if we're talking about bringing in somebody on and starting this from scratch here, they've got to come with expertise. And in 2 years, I mean, we may find that when we talk to the county and we find some other input, we may have to change that to say 4 years, 5 years. Right now, this is our first template that we want to share with you, but the person that we're going to hire has to come in with some working knowledge and have some background that proves that they're going to be capable of doing what we're looking for them to do on behalf of the city.
Okay, and one last
Anita?
question to follow up. And the one right up above it with the requirement of a Bachelor of Science degree, a BS degree, and relevant field. What is the relevant field?
Kyle?
Through the chair. I don't know if we want to, I mean, here's my concern. If somebody has a different field, but they've been doing the job for a few years, I'm not going to, exclude them from the applicant process because they have a degree in accounting. They have a degree in marketing, but they've been doing this job for 14 years because they went to college years ago and then they landed in this job and now they're really good at it. That's what I meant by relevant field. I didn't want to put us in a position where they don't have that type of degree that they're now excluded from the applicant list. So relevant field meant that they have a degree. It could be any degree, but as long as they came with experience, then we weren't going to then just not include them in as a candidate.
Anything else on this topic? Okay, I don't see anything. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our last topic on today's meeting. This is the salary for the Director of Finance and Director of Law. Mayor, do you want to go through this?
Sure. I'd like to first talk about what we're looking at adjusting the salaries of the law and finance director, which is 2/3 of the BOC right now. These positions have been outpaced over the last 13 years for no pay increase due to previous charter review. Now that the charter review has been passed by the residents, it is our goal to make these positions more competitive and attractive and to retain our staff. If you look at since 2007, there hasn't been an increase in either one of these positions. And I'm looking to make sure that we remain competitive and comparable to those that are maybe in those same departments that are being supervised by these various department heads. The savings over the years of we've been combining positions, which has been a savings for the city over the last 3 years. For example, we've combined the finance position of savings. We haven't filled a deputy finance director. We've saved over $375,000 over the last 3 years from not filling that position. In the law department, we've saved about $300,000 combining the law director and the prosecutor's office as well over the last 3 years. And currently in the finance department, we have 2 vacancies, as well as within the law department, we have 2 vacancies. So I wanted to present this for council for consideration to put in the 2021 budget for adjustments. If I could, I just want to also highlight that throughout the state of Ohio and my research with other mayors, a finance director starts anywhere from $105,000 to $125,000. And for a law director, I mean, it varies with the top 8. And I'll just probably use the Canton, Ohio is $108,000 for a law director. And it can go anywhere to $184,000, but you're talking about comparable in city size. So just wanted to kind of give you a scale of what we're looking for. And I wanted to present this to council for your consideration for adjusting the salary of these 2 members of the BOC.
Okay, Anita?
To the chair, Mayor, in the law department, we just passed charter amendment and we separated these things. Let me start with, this should have been brought up as two separate items. You know, the citizens of Youngstown really want to, I think they kind of expressed they want us to deal with these people separately, through separate pieces of legislation, not together. And that's something that how I would want to, because I want to be able to vote up or down, pay increase or pay decrease. So let me express it that way, that I would like to see this come to us to start off with as two separate pieces of legislation, one for the law department and one for the finance director.
So Councilwoman Davis, through the chair.
Mayor.
You would like to see that it's two separate adjustments, one for law director and one for finance director, if I'm hearing you correct.
That's correct. I mean, I'm not saying how I'm going to vote. I'm just saying how I want to see it brought to me, you know, not as a single piece.
Basha.
Thank you through the chair. I wanted to actually just concur with Councilwoman Davis based on what the residents voted and wanting to, you know, kind of take these from the charter and separate them. I would like to also see them as two separate ordinances rather than clustered in one.
Okay.
Samantha.
Thank you, through the chair. Mayor, could you please provide us with a list of accomplishments or changes or into policies and procedures or major contributions that our law director has accomplished as the law director for the city and the prosecutor, and then the same for the finance director? I see these now as they are increases. We're basing it based really on merit and on how they are performing, with it not being tethered so much to the charter. So I would like to see, in your eyes, what those accomplishments look like, what they have contributed to the administration and the city. And I understand the financial savings, but what I would like to hear more about the work. And this is just my 1 year with them. So if you could provide that for the course of the last 3 years.
Not a problem, Councilwoman. We can do that to the direct response.
So I'm kind of thinking of these positions in terms of the future of them and not the people currently sitting in those positions. And that being said, you know, I know from the finance side of things, Mayor, you've said you've struggled to find somebody to even apply for the finance director position other than Kyle because, you know, the pay is low. So it's not attractive for people who sort of would have the qualifications needed. And it, you know, it is a very important position for the city. So, you know, from that regard, in terms of, you know, being in a position for the future of fulfilling the finance director, I see, you know, possibly a need there to increase the salary just so we can attract quality candidates. I'm not saying anything about Kyle. I'm talking this abstract, because Kyle's not going to be sitting here for forever, just in general. So I see that, but I also see, you know, I don't like talking about it in terms of savings that we've seen over the last few years, because we eventually could fill that deputy finance director position. We could be filling those law director positions. We also, you know, we have a savings on the law side of not hiring 2 people, but what do our numbers look like for our outsourcing bills right now on the law side? Are we over what we usually are? Are we under what we usually are? Are we neutral to where we usually are? Because we do outsource a lot on the law side. So I'd like to see a breakdown there. You know, I guess I'd like to talk about it in terms of the future need, instead of, you know, patting patting people on the back that we currently have in those positions. Not that they don't deserve it. I think, you know, Kyle has done a fantastic job taking the reins here, but, you know, this isn't, I didn't support the charter amendment for Kyle. I supported it because for the larger picture, if that makes sense.
Through the chair, that makes absolute sense. I think I want it to be the position and not a person, because many of us won't be around the table, as many in the past were not at the table when they started looking at the charter and didn't realize that there was going to be a 13-year gap in adjusting these salaries. So we will look at those saving and outsourcing and share that information with you as well.
That'd be great. And also, if I could just have the most up-to-date employee list on finance and on the law side would be great for me. So Basha.
Oh, thank you. Through the chair, I just want to make a quick comment. Looking at the salaries, excuse me, list that we were provided prior to the meeting. And I guess kind of like you said, you know, taking the current individuals out of the equation and just speaking of the salaries in general, I think with an increase, it would put them more in line with what some of the other higher ups make in terms of like our police chief and our fire chief. And I think just even for the future of this city, being able to give and provide a more competitive salary is going to be able to potentially you know, draw in better, you know, talent in the future. I'm saying if something were to happen to our current, you know, finance, you know, director or even law director. And I think at the end of the day, potentially, if you have the right person in that position and you're able to recruit such talent, there would be a return on investment on the back end as well. So, I mean, I'm for the, you know, for the increase. And because I think up until this point, it has not been equitable because they haven't had a raise for all these years because it was tied to the charter. So I think it's something that we should definitely be considering.
I know that the charter change doesn't actually take effect till January 1. Does that have a bearing on the time frame for your pieces of legislation here? Or maybe a question for the law department too. I don't know.
Through the chair, we did have it as once the charter takes effect, we wanted to start at this in the first of the year. If we'll make the adjustments and let council make a decision as to how they decide where they want to go with it. I was looking at January 1 just to kind of start the year off in the right direction. So we'll gather the information you want, share that back with you, and see what your appetite is after that.
Samantha.
Thank you. I'd also like to see how these increases, and today we've talked about increases in staffing, how this affects our coming budget before I feel comfortable with moving forward. I understand that the charter amendment is coming into play effective January 1, and I understand paying someone for their work or for their talent. But we also have to be mindful that we are still in a time of unknown, and we want to make sure that we are being good stewards before we move forward. So before that happens, if you could please provide us what this looks like budget-wise with the increases. And then, of course, like I said, the list of what the accomplishments and contributions that they've made, because although this is something that we're looking to the future, right now we're making this decision based on the people that are sitting in front of us. So that's why I ask for you to provide that information. Thank you.
Through the chair, direct response.
Mayor.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll show you what it looks like in that budget, the overall impact. So you have a comparison. Let's say you maybe have a comparison over the last 3 years and what that looks like adding to this year. Does that help you? Yes, ma'am.
Anita.
To the chair. I'm trying to put it. We reference places like Akron and cities like that where their economy is a lot better than ours, and their median income is not like this, probably one of the lowest in the country. So what do these salaries look like when you compare them to cities that are like Youngstown in terms of its economics, the median income? You know, are we in line with those cities? You know, we can't judge by Youngstown by Parma or Cuyahoga Falls or even Akron, because all those people, all those places, they're not at the bottom in terms of the median income. They're not at, you know, that I know of. I don't think they're looking at where we are in terms of our potential deficits and things like that. You know, so I kind of would like to know, how do our wages stack up to some of the poorer places? And I'm not saying that that it hasn't been a long time, way overdue for a pay increase, but because the work is there. But I didn't pass, no, when I supported this thing, again, it wasn't for Kyle, it wasn't for Jeff.
Mhm.
I supported separating this thing so the council could be one of the responsible bodies, because here's what's going to happen. If we screw up, the mayor's going to say, well, council voted for it. He's not going to say, well, I supported it. He's going to say council voted for it. So we need to have all kinds of information before, in my opinion, before we make a decision on this. Thank you.
I think just in give my opinion on the situation. Like you mentioned, Mayor, you know, this is 2/3 of the Board of Control, and the Board of Control controls the city, right? They are the main characters running our city here. And so like I mentioned earlier, I am fearful of our ability to attract quality candidates for either of those positions, where, you know, you've said before you've struggled on the finance side. So down the road, when we need to be attracting quality candidates, we can't do it because we can't compete, and sort of a chicken and the egg situation where if we don't have a quality finance director, we don't have quality finances, we don't have quality economic development deals, because I mean, our finance director has been part of our contract negotiations with unions, our economic development contracts, our water department contracts with neighboring communities. I mean, our health department, our health insurance contracts. Kyle proved, you know, but 2 years ago, he saved us a ton of money because he negotiated our health care. It's an important position. And so to not be able to compete down the road for a candidate because we, you know, just aren't I don't know what the right way to phrase this is, but to not be able to compete for a quality candidate does scare me. And that's part of the reason why, you know, I support really looking into increasing the salary here. Basha.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have a quick question because I'm looking at that spreadsheet that was given to us. Who is the Chief Information Officer? Can somebody answer that for me?
I think that's Rick.
Yes.
Through the chair. Basha, through the chair. That is Rick Deek. He is our Chief Information Officer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, because I mean, I was just looking at these salaries, and I agree with Councilman Davis. I think we need a apples to apples comparison of cities that are in a, you know, similar financial standing we are. But then I am very much drawn to looking at this and the comparables of what we already have some of the higher ups making in the city. And as an example, I mean, you know, fire chief, police chief, and chief information officer, you know, are all 90 plus, but our finance director is not even close to that. And I mean, beside the position of mayor, I mean, I think a finance director is one of the most important, if not the most important position in the city. I mean, kind of like Lauren mentioned, I mean, they help spur economic development deals. I mean, so I think it's imperative that we're able to draw and recruit the talent that's needed to fill such an important position. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Through the chair.
Mayor.
You're absolutely right. And then you want to make sure that you get someone with that great integrity in those positions, and you pay for what you get. So I want to make sure that we have that. And I think we're all looking for the future. It's not just today, it's in the future. And this is a good first start for us. So I did take notes from members of council, and I did hear what you're saying. I will come back to you with some of those recommendations and thoughts, and I will stay in touch with you as it relates to these pieces of legislation, that the draft legislation that we propose to you, and get them to you.
Anita?
Chair, so this is, if this thing is not passed immediately, and it's passed later on after we get the budget and everything else, and we either voted, let's say we voted a pay increase for one or both. So if would they receive a retroactive paycheck to cover retroactive?
Through the chair.
Through
I'd
the
like to hear
chair,
from the law department first.
Dana can answer that because it cannot be retroactive because of the
Hear
master
from the law
salary.
department, please.
Yeah.
I would like to hear from the law department. Thank you.
Dana.
Through the chair.
Dana, can you talk about retroactive pay for these two pieces, or these two positions?
This is amending the master salary ordinance. So the master salary ordinance amendment would go into effect upon passage. So it's not a retroactive. Whenever we've had a retroactive situation, it's because it didn't, once it was passed, it didn't go into effect right away because of processing in the past before the computer system we have now. But we don't pass rates because they'll go into effect when the master salary is, and then that appointment letter will indicate that rate, that proper rate, and it goes into effect at the time of that appointment.
Thank you. Anita, oh, sorry, I can't see you. You put your hand a little higher. Go a little higher. It's all little fingers at the bottom there.
I apologize. So if we pass this thing after we did the budget, for instance, it would only go from the date of the budget being after the budget was passed forward. And there would be no way to compensate going back. So that would be a thing to spur us to move, spur to get the budget done more at a more timely basis. That's all I got to say.
What is the current, I guess from the administration standpoint, what is the current, budget timeline on your end? Are you, I'm guessing you guys probably pretty done, because council usually starts in January. Kyle?
Through the chair, we are going to come to you with a budget different than we've done in the past. This budget is going to be stripped down because there's two big unknowns, and those unknowns are, one, with regards to income tax, are we going to see any recovery? And then two, we don't know what we're going to see with regards when this whole debate on is the governor's emergency execution of the commuter tax going to be upheld, or are we going to have to issue refunds to everybody that did not work in the city location for 2020 and have to give them refunds in 2021. So yes, the budget is going to come to you in different form than it's ever come to you in the past. It's going to come to you based on the payroll of the current staff that is in place. We will talk to you about a few recommended changes within that payroll, but the operating side, it is going to be stripped back, and we're going to present to you a balanced budget with a sizable surplus. The surplus meaning we don't know the outcome of those two large items, so we cannot allow you to give us the authority to expend money that we may not collect in the current calendar year. So the recommendation that we will develop after the budget is passed is, what are some of the items that if we are able to recover, what would you like to spend money on? But we will do that after you pass the budget. The budget that you pass will pass hopefully as early as February. And then we can have those discussions through March of, if things recover, how would you like to spend those savings with the administration's input and your input? So yes, we are going to bring that to you much sooner. We're not going to have that process of sitting down in advance with departments. We'll do that afterwards because we need to get a budget in place and then start evaluating what's happening going forward. Is COVID-19 going to continue to impact our income collections? And do we have an answer from the courts down in Columbus with this situation with the commuter tax?
Mayor?
Through the chair, I think I've talked about outcome budgeting, where we look at members of city council and talk about what's our outcome and what's at the end of the year, what's our result, what's our data look like. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, Laura, about it yet, but that's what essentially we want to focus on, outcome budgeting. And I think those that I've talked to like the idea where we come together with city council and the mayor's office to talk about what do we want to see in our budget that's going to affect the citizens, the service, and the better quality of life for our citizens of Youngstown. So I look forward to hearing from that. I think the one thing I ask each member of council is to talk about your strategic priorities, and I want to make sure that we connect all 7 as well as what the administration is looking at and figure out where we have some commonalities and that we can really focus our finances and our attention to. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll follow up with each one of you to talk about your strategic priorities and how we incorporate that in our budget in 2021.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments at this point on this? I know you have some takeaways, Mayor, that we'll keep our eye out for from you.
Absolutely. Through chair, yes.
Okay. I don't see anything else. Kyle, did you want to say something? Oh, you're muted.
So right now, we have in front of us the one request with regards to the change in the number of positions for the network administrator. Do you want that legislation at least sent upstairs to you, executed by the mayor for the finance committee to at least consider, or do you want to have us wait and submit that later in the budget process with regards to that position? And second, the next question, do you want the administration to send upstairs the same legislation that you currently have, but separate, where the finance director and the law director are on separate pieces of legislation to be considered for the next council meeting?
Through the chair, if I hear you right, Kyle, what I'm going to do is take all of my takeaways, and before I present to the council, before I present the legislation, I'll present what they asked for first, and then we'll let council decide what's their pleasure after that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you had too much homework on the computer network administrator side. I mean, just myself, I'm comfortable, you guys can draft legislation whenever you feel that you're ready, and can get us that information in a timely, I'm sure you can get us, our requests when you can, and then we can move forward from there. I think we officially meet again, what, Monday? Is that our next meeting? So that doesn't give you guys a lot of time. Anyone else? Oh, Anita.
Through the chair. So with regard to this one piece, and for the finance director and the law director, what is the dollar? What does that translate into in terms of dollars annually?
It was on.
Are you
Carl,
asking
go
through the
ahead.
chair? Are you asking for the net change between the two salaries?
Yes.
1 second.
They're going from 83,949 up to 96,553.
Through the chair, the change in salary would be $12,605 approximately.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And through the chair, follow up. And
Anita?
yes, that's just then that would be a one-time pay increase.
Through the chair, correct.
Now to the chair.
Go ahead, Anita.
To the law department. So this then would not have any effect, any bearing on the mayor's salary, would it? Law department.
Through the chair.
If
No, it would not have any effect on the mayor.
Through the chair, let me say, no, it will not have an effect on the mayor. The mayor's not asking for an increase for the mayor. So let's make sure we put that on the record.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Do you have anything else, Mayor?
I do not. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands for comments or questions. So I guess we don't have a motion then that's needed at this point in time. Right, I'm looking at my committee members to make sure I'm on the same page or heard everything correctly.
Yeah,
The only motion I would make would be to adjourn.
Just a motion to
Excuse
adjourn
me,
then.
excuse
Oh,
me,
yeah,
Madam Chair,
Valencia.
this is Valencia. What is the decision for the legislation for the network administrator? What's the final, what are you guys doing with that piece of legislation?
Were we provided an actual piece of legislation?
No, the draft that's in front of you, is it going to be considered at this coming meeting, or I'm trying to get clarity of what you guys. No movement because you're still waiting for additional information?
Well, I think the mayor wanted to provide us with the information and then take the next step for both of those pieces. Is that correct, Mayor? Or did you want us to move forward with the program, getting the final legislation for the program administrator?
Through the chair, I'm prepared to send you the program administrator today.
So I need to wait for that to come up because I'm putting the packet out today. So if the committee is going to consider the network administrating programmer, then that's what I'm asking you, Madam Chair, for this upcoming meeting.
Anita?
To the chair, did Councilwoman Turner ask us to wait for the flow chart or the Samantha?
Samantha?
Yes, I would like to see the, from the mayor's perspective, the accomplishments and contributions from both of the members we're asking to increase their salary for.
No, we're just talking about the computer administration.
Yeah, and that too as well. I would like to see that as well before I feel comfortable moving forward.
Okay, so I think we just needed a flow chart for the network administration position. That's what I remember being our takeaway for that. Sounds like you can have that to us pretty quickly. So I am okay doing a motion or telling the administration to go ahead and finalize that piece of legislation for our next council meeting. Are my committee members in agreement there? Anita?
I agree with you.
Okay, So Valencia, that will be our directive for the network administration position.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we'll give the mayor a little more time on the other piece. Okay. Are we good now? Okay. I'll try for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right. You may leave the meeting.